just so many. Okay, I got them. Who are the top 5 players that have to make this roster as rookies that can not only make an impact, but can grow into somebody this team can invest in? Let's talk about the top 5 rookies in training camp right now. Welcome back to RGR, everybody. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue on the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs in particular, although there's a few other topics that slide in there. And for those of you that are new, this is kind of my vlog series where I'm doing things a little bit differently, not the walkthroughs and film analysis. We'll get back into that in the regular season. But for now, we're just talking about what can be, what could be, what should be for all intents and purposes. So without further ado, top 5 rookies in training camp in 2019. Number 5, you can call me a cheater if you want to. You can tell that I have a tendency to put some asterisks out there when it comes to how I make these lists, because number 5 today is a 3-way tie. And we're just going to call it the day 2 guys. And that's because the value of day 2 draft picks is so immense that you kind of have to lump them together. But what we look at in Mecole Hardman, Juan Thornhill, and Colin Saunders is that they all have talent that can get on the field in 2019. They all have a specific role to play. Hardman's is obviously really high profile because of everything else going around the wide receiver group. Juan Thornhill is a guy that should start from day 1. And if you missed my video all on him, I'll try to put that up here. It'll definitely be in the notes. And Colin Saunders, I know I owe you guys a video about Saunders, and I will get to that here, hopefully before camp starts. But he's another guy that has an impact to make in a rotation against a lot of other talent. But we can't discount what he does. He is the third musketeer, if you want to call it, of those day 2 guys that we have to say they're locks for the roster. They're locks for probably what's going to be taking over the core of the team in the future. And we have to plan for that. So that's number 5, the 3 of them put together. So I'll try to boil it down to some regular selections here in a second. Number 4 is the really interesting case of Nick Allegretti. One of the day 3 guys, 6th round draft choices. There were 3 of them in this particular draft that really has a little bit of a chance to make an impact. Chris and I actually talked about it this week on the Locked On Chiefs podcast when we looked at camp battles, specifically for the offense. I believe that was Tuesday's show. You can go check that out on Locked On Chiefs. Nick Allegretti is a guy that what we talked about on the podcast is not only is he kind of a nasty, oversized guy, a bit tall for the guard position, specifically for center, and that's where he got some reps in OTAs. And Chris actually feels like if he can make a good progression, he might be a candidate to unseat one of the starters, if not this year, next season in 2020. So you got to give him credit for what he does right now as a rookie, but you also have to keep an eye on what he can do in a sophomore season and possibly be an option at the interior. Now, the Chiefs have a lot of guys, a lot of offensive linemen that can make not only this roster, but other rosters around the league. They are going to cut somebody that's going to land and actually play some good snaps in 2019. And Nick Allegretti is one of those guys that might bump somebody back. When we look at the roster lineup that was on the podcast, Allegretti's in the mix there, but that also leaves some talented linemen that are going to be on the outside looking in. So look for him to make some noise and keep an eye on him come this training camp. Number 3, and this one's going to catch you a little bit by surprise, I think. But number 3 for me is Kyle Shermer. It's such an oversight right now because of the success that the MVP Mahomes has had and his impact across the league, both being the MVP, being on Madden of all things, and we can talk about the curse later. But his play is so overpowering, you forget that they have to carry somebody else. You have to have a solid backup. Right now it's Henne, and that I think is a reasonable thing in 2019. I think Chad Henne can be a guy that could take over this complex offense should Pat, stub his toe That's all we're going to say. So that brings you to, is there somebody on the roster, and they have 4 quarterbacks right now, that can eventually ascend to that spot and be the understudy, be the emergency blanket, break the glass kind of guy for Mahomes? And there's several options there. They could end up paying Henny again, be like Chase Daniel, and get paid a couple of times really good money to be a backup. But I don't see that happening with the numbers crunch. So then what you look for is who's got the most options, who's got the guy that can come in and have to change the offense the least, and who can perform at obviously not a Mahomes level, but at a level that can get you wins and not get you losses. That's probably the more important part. And it comes down to Litton versus Shermer. And that's really what it's going to come down to. Now, Litton's got the cannon to go with Pat Mahomes. I'm not going to say it's equal, but he's got a very strong arm. And we've seen him play fairly well last preseason. We're going to be looking to what he can do this preseason quite a bit. Now, Shermer's got the advantage that grew up in a football household, has that pedigree, understands offenses, has a lot to draw on mentally. And as the backup, that's part of your role. It's also part of your role to be very, very adept at helping Pat Mahomes in his preparation, his film work, his planning in the quarterback room during the week. So there is a chemistry aspect to that too. But these two guys, I think, could be fighting to be the backup of the future. And I'm going to be watching very closely for what Shermer does. I hope you guys will too. Now, you can get frustrated if you want. I'm going to put two together again because they're kind of in the same boat. Even though Rashad Fenton was drafted and Mark Fields was not, there are two guys that had some issues in college. Now, Fenton has made some plays. He's not the most athletic guy, so it's hard to project him against some of the elite receivers physically in the league. But you like his tenacity. You like his attitude. The Chiefs have come out, and I think Brett Veach said in one of the franchise episodes, which gives me another thing. Do you guys want to see me do little reviews of the franchise episodes? I can probably do that. So let me know in the comments. But what he said about him is that his tenacity was something that they were looking for, the edge, the attitude. And I think that's kind of a thread that we've seen the last couple of seasons with Brett Veach is what kind of player, what kind of person, what kind of competitor is Brett Veach looking for? And I think that's what gives Fenton the advantage and puts him on track to possibly make this roster. Now, the other guy is Fields, and I put them together because they're kind of yin and yang. Fields had some trouble in college, had issues with the coaching staff, didn't get a whole lot of playing time down the stretch. But he's a physical specimen. He's got physical skills, long speed. He changes direction well. He makes plays on the ball as well. You can see PBUs are kind of a thread going through the whole Andy Reid era, and that's something to definitely pay attention to when it comes to next draft season. Who are DBs that put up PBUs? So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, was it a specific thing in college? Does he have trouble learning defenses? Can he understand Spags' coverages? I think he's physically capable of making this roster. I don't know if he is mentally, and that's going to be what we have to watch. But the pair of them, Fenton and Fields, you put them together, you've got a really nice, well-rounded player. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. It's going to be who can iron out their weaknesses faster and get a chance to make this roster. So there's another two to watch. And last, number one rookie to watch in training camp. My guy, and you can call him my guy anytime you want, much like Sherman. John Lovett. Quarterback / tight end / H-back. I'll bet you can play some fullback too, and you can use him and Sherman kind of a switch out routine. But here's the thing. Like we've seen with all these guys, there's opportunity in places for a specific role. Fenton Fields, like I just talked about, play at a position that is low on talent, especially at depth. So is tight end. In fact, tight end, obviously Travis Kelce is an all-pro. He's the best tight end in the game. But you have to look at the position as a 3-deep kind of configuration. And when you do that, it's very, very light in talent right now going into training camp. And so that makes opportunity. A guy like Allegretti we talked about earlier has a little bit harder road because there's more competition there. I think John Lovett can carve out an opportunity, a role for himself just by being who he is, which is a smart player, played quarterback in college, understands how to dissect defenses, understands how to use motion to take an advantage and get matchups on defenses, and a guy that has shown both athleticism and a natural skill at catching for a guy who's been throwing the ball for I don't know how long. But here's the thing. You don't necessarily have to block. I wish there was blocking tight ends. Jason Dunn, I miss you. But Andy Reid doesn't necessarily want that. He wants guys that are athletic and that can exploit defenses, and that's something that John Lovett does. If you can imagine Travis Kelce lined up as an inline tight end, Lovett behind him as an H-back, and Sherm either on the other side as the other tight end or as another H or at fullback, that gives you three guys that bring power, bring tenacity, and bring matchup problems to this offense that don't have to be split out wide. And I think that's something that you can look for in this particular season with what I expect to be more exotic defenses, exotic blitzes coming at the offense. I think that hot route concept, that close inside between the hashes kind of routes are something that these guys can take advantage. And I think John Lovett is in a great position right now to take over that backup role, especially on non-running downs. So that's what I think. Those are my top five. What are yours? Who do you think are the rookies that can make an impact and make this 53-man roster? That's the big question of the day, and that's what we're heading towards. So I want to know what you guys think down below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe and the bell for the notifications of when I put videos up and when I go live. We're going to keep doing the Q&As on Mondays. I'm going to have a couple new wrinkles for you. But I want to know what you all think. So the comments are important and the thumbs up are important. If you like this, click the like and let YouTube know that. Gonna have more for you very, very soon. Have a couple of ideas I'm gonna try out. Might do some super short videos, some longer ones. We're gonna get kind of funky with this and see what comes. But for now, thank you for watching today. Check out these videos and I'll talk to you next time.